How are you guys doing, YouTube? So back to the story of my life. I just make a video about 1 day ago, 2 days ago, to talk about my life and to talk about like how did I learn English. So that video actually did pretty well, I would say. I got like 122 views right now in 1 day, so that's actually really good. And compared to my other videos, right, that one got more views. And I don't care about views that much, because like the view just mean like I think people care about like what happened in my life. So I actually have a lot of things to share, so that was a good start. And I also noticed like right now I think I have 28 followers on YouTube, and I actually check some other YouTubers as well. Like I see that they make some videos and their video has about like 2,000 views, 3,000 views, but they have like 10 followers or less than 10 followers. So I would say the fact that I get 28 followers is actually not that bad. So thanks for subscribing to my channel, guys. So the last video I talked about how did I learn English, right? So actually learning English basically, actually before I talk about like all this thing, I do want to mention one thing. I noticed in a lot of my other videos that when I have a lot of content to say in one video, I tend to speak very fast in that video. And the fact that I'm speaking very fast and just make my speech a lot more unclear than like how it should be. And I notice a lot of the words I say, I skip a lot of syllables in a word, so that's what makes me like feel like I'm mumbling a lot as well. So I will try not to put too much information in one video. I wanted to put like the whole 5 years into this one video, right? But I noticed it's gonna be a lot of information, so I think I'm gonna like space it out and make it two parts of 2 videos to talk about like the stuff that happened to me in Canada. So a little bit backstory right now. As I mentioned last time, I spent a lot of time studying English and trying to get better in my English. So that actually gets me to where I am right now, because like if I haven't spent time into studying English, I probably wouldn't apply for the working holiday visa. So right now I'm in Canada, so people wonder like how did I get to Canada? How did I spend 5 years in Canada right now? So originally, I just like a lot of other international students actually came to Canada with the working holiday permit, and the reason why I chose Canada is because, as I mentioned in the last video, right, I'm trying to like study American accents, and American accents I just kind of think that like Canada is very close to America, so they should have like the same type of accent. So that is like one of the reasons why I would like to go to Canada and just like see the life in Canada, because like it's very close to America. And I do have like 1 or 2 friends in Canada at that time as well, but eventually I didn't really spend time to meet those friends. But anyways, I mean, the main reasons of coming to Canada as well is like one, actually there are 2 main reasons. One is I just want to learn American accents, and second is Canada is a very good place for working holiday. The reason why I would say it's a very good place, it's because like Canada, it doesn't limit you to do what type of jobs you can choose. So I know that in let's say in Australia, so if you want to go to do working holiday in Australia, they kind of don't allow you to do some certain type of work, so you're only allowed to do the third type of work, which is like the work that you can only work in a farm, you can only work in restaurants and stuff like that, right? So you cannot do anything that is more technical, that is more skilled, and you can only work in a job for 3 months. But versus in Canada, they don't have like all this limitations. So as long as you can get hired by a job, you can work in whatever field you want to work in, right? So that's a very good thing about Canada, and that's one of the reasons why I chose to come to Canada. But at first, like so now when I was preparing to come to Canada, right, I actually didn't think about too much about like what to bring to Canada, what is gonna happen. So as I mentioned, I was like doing lifeguard, and I was teaching swimming in Hong Kong. So I remember before I come this summer, before I come here, I came in the winter because because I was kind of like full-time teaching swimming back then. So I have a bunch of students. I have a lot of students back in Hong Kong. So I was almost to a point where I can open a swimming school. So that was like my goal before as well. Like I kind of want to get into the business thing. So I want to, like, because I have a lot of students. I have like one summer I had around 50 students learning swimming from me, right? So literally every single day, I wasn't like doing lifeguard that much at that last summer because I have so many students, and I have a lot of people recommend me. Like, you know, when you're popular in one of the pools, and people tend to like recommend you to other parents, to other students. So I have a lot of referrals from other people, and people just want to learn swimming from me. So I would like teach a lot of swimming in that pool. So one day, every day, right, I would like stay in the swimming pool for a long time, and for like, I remember like sometimes 7 hours in the swimming pool and just teaching swimming Monday to Sunday, right? I have a very busy schedule. So before coming to Canada, I actually thought about I would go back to Hong Kong and open a swimming school in next summer. So I came here in the winter. I told my students that I'm gonna go back in about half a year. So wait for me to come back, and then we're gonna continue the swimming lessons. And winter is always the downtime of people don't really want to learn swimming in the winter, right? So I come here in the winter. I came here and actually in the end of October. So that was kind of cold when I come here. And when I come here again, right, I didn't expect too much. I didn't even like think about too much about like what would happen to me in Canada, what kind of jobs I'm gonna do. I was like, whatever job I can find, I'm good with that. And I just finished my college. So my college was studying as a graphic designer, and it's advertising, packaging, and branding. So that's what I studied back then, right? So I have like some knowledge in design, but I don't even like imagine I can find a design job in here. So coming to here, the first thing is like I have to find a place to stay, and I have to find a job. So not going too details into how did I find a place, but I ended up the first month is like living with one of my friends, because I was supposed to be able to find a place before I come, but I actually couldn't find a place. So I was so lucky that my friend kind of took me in and let me to stay in her place for about a month. So that was amazing. And the second month I moved out and then stay in a place where I only have to spend $400 and sleeping in the living rooms. There's a mattress on the living room, so that's where I sleep for the whole time when I first arrived to Canada. So I stayed there for like 2 or 3 years, just sleeping in the living room on a mattress on the floor. So that's what happened. But in terms of like finding a job, when I first come here, I applied to any kind of jobs I can apply to. I apply to jobs that are, I apply to a restaurant, I apply to mobility, I apply to like mobile phone company, services company. I apply to Starbucks, I apply to a lot of other things, and I also apply a lot of things online. So I have my portfolio with me, with the slim hope that sometimes, like, you know, like sometimes it's just luck, right? You can find something that it's out of expectation. So I do apply online on Craigslist for design jobs, and you know Craigslist, they have a bunch of other things, right? They have jobs that doesn't require a lot of experience. So as me, a fresh graduate, right, I just like, man, I just want to apply to everything and try it out. So one thing that is really great is that I have like one of my father's friends in Hong Kong, and he has another friends in Canada, which is wanting, like, he is doing some like something like wire electricity business. So I went there for the interview, and then I got hired by that company. But at the same time, as I said, I was applying to like things on Craigslist as well. So I applied that, and then eventually I got a job in that my friend's dad's friend's company. And then I got a call from like one of the jobs I applied online. That job is working in a magazine company, and that magazine is a Japanese magazine that help out the small business, especially salon and restaurant owner, to advertise their business on the magazine. So what that company does is like they will design the ads internally for that client, for those clients that want to advertise on the magazine. So they will create ads for those clients. So I got a call from that company. and I went for the interview, and the boss was Chinese, and everything is, I mean, like, man, I was like, dude, that is my chance, right? I went for the interview. I had like my very bulky portfolio with me, because that time I didn't have, I actually had it on an online portfolio, but it was really poorly made. It was made from some kind of portfolio website, so it was pretty poorly made. I also have like my binder, like the whole folder full of my work inside. So I take all that into interviews, and the boss didn't even look at my portfolio. So he didn't like really look at my work. He just like asked me like, where are you from, what are you doing in Canada, and what kind of thing do you expect in the company. He didn't like really care about the work I do that much, but one thing I found out eventually is that like they actually plan something. But now when I'm talking to my boss, right, I'm like, hey, I really want a job. If you can get me the job, that would be awesome. So eventually I did get the job, and one of the reasons why is pretty funny. I told my boss that I saw him a lot competitively, and the boss think like, the people that are very active in sport, they actually are very goal driven, and they just like have a better mentality. So one of the reasons why I get hired is because of that. So that's how I got my first job after 2 weeks coming to Canada, right? So that was actually great, the fact that I could get a job very fast, and I was really happy about it. Although that job literally paid me almost like nothing. It's like much lower than minimum wage, and like there's a lot of details I don't want to disclose in this video, but there's a lot of details into it. But who cares? Like the first job, I really don't care much about like money. I care about how much I can learn, right? And the fact that I can learn so much in that job, it just changed me personally. And because like the fact that I think I mentioned in the last video as well, I'm not a very good design student, so I don't have a lot of very good work into my portfolio as well. So literally I would say I don't know anything when I get to the job, and I don't know how to position a page and page layout and all that, right? So what happened in that company is that because it's a Japanese magazine company, they hired the Japanese designer to work in the company, and I always like about Japanese design. Some of them are very clean, some of them like they have really good position of different elements on the page. So I work with a coworker, his name is Kanta. So Kanta, if you're listening to this video right now, thank you so much, man. He's been like very good. I can even stress enough about like how good he is, and I love working with Japanese people. And they're just very nice people. I remember the first day I go to work, right? There's like Kenta and another designer, and they both are working. They're both working holiday students. No, actually, they're both international students working in Canada, then helping out the Japanese magazine company, right? So they're both very good people. They help me out a lot. And the first day I go to work, right, they're like, don't worry about it, we'll go down, and like they bought me a drink or something. So that was very nice. So in the company, right, I learned a lot from Kanta. So all this like design stuff, I just have no idea how to design, right? So he taught me a lot of things. He taught me like how to position. And the boss do mention to Kanta is that like, hey, I want to train this guy, so teach him whatever you can, right? So that's actually one thing that's very good. The fact that I go to the company, I don't mean to make money, but I mean to learn a lot of things, right? So I learned a bunch of things from Kanta, and that's how I really kickstarted my career, right? Because he taught me a lot of fundamental about design, how to position, especially like page layout. That's like one thing is very important, especially if you want to be a designer, you have to learn page layout. So he taught me a lot of things about design, so I learned a lot of things from him. So we worked together in that company for about half a year. And then Kanta's and the Kanta visa is about to expire, right? So he has to go back to Japan. So what happens, like I was the only one that left in the company, and I have to take care of like all the work that Kanta left off, right? Like, so all the thing that he did, I have to kind of take care of it and create new ads and all that, right? So the workload becomes so much more heavy, and the fact that like, because that was my first job, my work ethic is not that good as well. I tend to make a lot of small mistakes, but that company, because a lot of print work, so you have to be very detail driven. So you have to be very careful about whatever thing you do in the company, whatever thing you send to the clients, because like all those things gonna get printed. So So I was not very careful with the stuff into my design. But I mean, my design is always okay, but the details, like they design a lot of menus as well. I always have like some spelling mistakes and like here and there. So just like very careless about this kind of details, right? But eventually I learn a very hard lessons. So because of that, I kind of like not doing so well in my first job. So for whatever reason, I eventually left the company. So that was actually a very good time to leave the company as well, because at that time, right, I thought about like, hey, it's almost summertime, so I stayed there, as I mentioned, right, I stayed there for half a year. So I told my students back in Hong Kong that I'm gonna go back and continue my swimming class with them, right? Because a lot of them actually, they messaged me around the same time as well. They were like, hey, are you coming back to Hong Kong? We're waiting for you to come back. And then eventually I was like deciding, like when I quit the job, right, do I want to just go back to Hong Kong and back to whatever I was doing, teaching swimming, or do I want to stay in Canada right now and just try to like survive in here a little longer and try to find another design job, right? Because if design is something that I really want to do, then maybe it's better for me to stay here. And in Hong Kong, designers are very, very hard to make a living in Hong Kong. That is one of my personal, not my personal experience, but I hear back from a lot of my previous classmates from my design school, right? They actually have a very tough time, and a lot of my classmates, they're not doing design work anymore. That's because like in Hong Kong, design is just not one thing that can make people to want to pay good money for it, because like people are so focused on money, so focused on financial stuff. So design is always just like a side product, side thing. So people just don't want to spend a lot of money into like paying for design, right? So I have to figure out if I want to stay in Canada or not. So again, I have to go back to Craigslist and keep applying for different jobs, right? Actually fairly quickly, because I built up my portfolio, kind of, because like half a year, right, I've created a lot of different ads and I've kind of built up my portfolio, and that was the time that I created my first website with my first coding skill. So I remember like I have to learn how to code because I really want to make my personal websites, right? And at that time I don't know if there's any other ways that I can do my personal website without coding. So that's one thing that one thing that I have to learn how to code myself as well. And eventually I kind of want to be a web designer. I don't just want to be a print designer, because like print work doesn't really interest me that much, because like there's a lot of restriction in the print design and you have to like design in a certain canvas. But website, the canvas is like unlimited. You can do whatever, however long your web page to be. So I just love web design, and I thought that I want to get better into web design, right? So that's the direction I want to go, and that's really like driven me to like learn how to design better. Here's like I'm gonna show you like what did I do actually. Like I'm gonna show like all my portfolio into like I have a lot of versions of my portfolio websites. I'm gonna show like all that into like my life story here right now. So this is my very first portfolio website, and like you can see like it's very simple. I just have like my work left and right layout. There's no fancy clicking, because like this whole site, I built the whole site into table format. So if you know HTML, that is the worst way to code. But I finished my whole website into like I put everything into a table. So it's pretty simple. You just scroll down. It's pretty white, the whole page, and then have like my kind of like my personal personality into it. So very simple work. But because of like this website though, I find another job working in a Chinese newspaper company. So it's very funny the way I got it. I just like go there. They call me up for an interview. So I went to the office, and they talked to me about like how the work is gonna be in here, and everybody speaks Mandarin in there. But my Mandarin was horrible. So, but I did improve some of my Mandarin in there. I worked there for a very short time, because like one of the reasons why I got hired is because one of their designers was on a vacation, on a long vacation. So they have to have a designer to kind of fill out the spot, to help them out with the design. So as a newspaper, right, there's a lot of greed into the work they do, a lot of like greeting, a lot of InDesign, a lot of things like that. It's nothing interesting. I hated it because it's very boring. You just literally just put like blocks of content on a page and just try to move the layout and just put a lot of like what other people wrote into your design, and it's not a very interesting work. So at the same time, right, I don't really like the job that much now. I just like keep applying for other things as well, and at the same time, I get to learning like how to get better in design, right? And as I mentioned, I put all this effort into of studying English into improving my design skill. So one of the ways I do is like I really get down to study design. By studying, I literally mean like download the entire design and study all the pixels. Especially web design, right? As I mentioned, I really like web design and really like just download the entire thing and study like what is the white spaces between an element and an image and the border and all that, right? Border thickness, font sizes and all that. But I'm gonna get into like all the details of like how I really study a design, not just looking at it and then say it's good. I really download and study every single aspect into that piece of artwork, right? So I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna get more into it, but at the same time, I applied to a lot of other jobs as well on Craigslist. So I got another call from another company, and another company is a local design studio called. I'm not gonna say the name, but so they called me up. They were like, "Hey, we would like to interview you, and when can you come for an interview?" And then actually the first time is like I have a phone interview with that company. So that phone interview was very scary. As I mentioned, right, I have so at first, right, I'm really not comfortable talking with native speakers, and I was really comfortable. I can speak very good English when I'm talking to international students, but whenever I have to talk to native speakers, right, in my mind I just always think about that they won't understand what I'm talking about. So there's a lot of things in my head. And when you say like phone interview, I'm like, man, can I really do phone interview with the person? And you know like when talking on the phone is always harder than talking to people face to face, right? So I was really scared. So anyways, I went for the call and I just told them like what happened, blah blah blah, why would I be here, what I'm looking for right now, how did I do design. So they asked me a bunch of questions. So eventually I got through it. So eventually I got through it. The whole thing is just not so magical. Actually, I think God did help me a lot. And I didn't really mention, but I'm a Christian, so I believe in God. But so I think God just helped me a lot with the whole process. So I went for the first interview. So the first interview, I just go there, and then I was actually late for 30 minutes in my first interview. You know, like 30 minutes late for a first interview. You know how bad it was, right? It's because I took the wrong bus, and at that time, right, I didn't really know how to use Google Maps, and I just get on the bus, and the bus was going to an opposite direction, so I get on the wrong bus, and the location of that is very far. It's in Burnaby Mountain, so that was like so far away from where I live. I used to live very close to downtown Vancouver. So that was very far, and I was 30 minutes late. So I went to the interview and they asked me a bunch of questions about like, how did you learn design? What is your core value? With the core value questions, I just have no idea what they're talking about. I'm like, core value? I thought they're talking about core value, and they're actually talking about core value. They told me a lot of things like about the company, what is the core value of the company, and they asked me what is my core value. I'm like, dude, what the heck is core value? And I have no idea what they're asking, right? I'm just like answering some random stuff. So I believe like the interviewer, so there's a girl, there's the boss. I believe they have no idea what the heck I'm talking about the whole time. But I did, like when I leave the interview, right, they stopped my interview halfway and they say like, because you're so late, we just couldn't finish the interview with you. So when I leave, right, I just told them like, I'm very sorry that I'm late. I'm really sorry, but I really like to work with you guys, and I really want to learn from all of you guys, and I promise that like if I ever get hired by you guys, I'm gonna work super hard in the job, and I would not slack and all that, right? So I just showed like I'm really passionate, I really want about the jobs, and eventually they call me back. So second interview, they're like, hey, last minute interview, you were late, so we want to ask you to come up again and have another interview so we can talk to you for a little bit more. So I went for the interview again. So I was really grateful. I don't remember like how did it go, but eventually I got a call and I got the job. So I quit the Chinese newspaper company, and that company was the reason that I can still stay in Canada, because that company helped me with the immigration. So one of the things is like I met a guy, and he was actually my swimming students, and eventually I become very good friend with that guy, and his name is Yan. So eventually I become very good friend with Yan. He taught me a lot of things. He actually told me that, hey, have you ever thought about you can stay in Canada? And I was like, no, I just want to go back into swimming. And then he just told me about like there's a program called the PMP. So he just mentioned maybe you can think about like applying for the PMP, because PMP is a program that can help you to apply for permanent residency. And then at that time, right, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it out. So I told my boss, so I told my new boss that I kind of want to apply for this program. So I just like get into the work, right? So when I get started working, let me talk about a little bit about the background of the company. So the company they do a little web design. They're pretty a full media company. So they do web design, they do logo design, flyers, banners, and all that, right? So everything packed into a company. So I had to do a lot of things, and I had to work very fast in the company as well, and that trained me to be a very kind of like a faster designer. And they have a timer, so every single task you do in the design, you have to clock your time. So every time you finish the design, you have to clock your time. So let's say a website page or a web page design, they allocate 2 hours for you to finish the work. So every time when you finish, you have to clock your time and say like, I spend an hour and a half to finish the design. What is my task? So the whole team will know that how much time you spend on it, and every time you put, they have a limit of the time, right? It will decrease. So if you work longer on it, then which means the developer has to work faster. So it was very intense. But anyways, so back to applying for work permit. So I told my boss I want to apply for that, and the fact that if I want to apply, I have to provide a lot of information. So I did all my paperwork, but I didn't really read the requirements of PMP. So PMP is the program that I went through to apply for my permanent residency. So PMP was the thing. I didn't know the requirements of PMP, but I went ahead and just filled all my form, right? So my boss helped me with like getting a stamp and doing some paperwork, but I did pay for my whole thing as well, for my whole application fee. So applied for PMP, submitted the application. I was waiting to hear back from the governments, right? There's sometimes as well. And then at that time, I look into the details, and now I look into requirements, and it says like 2 years working experience as the minimum, 2 years working experience, so that I can get approved, right? But I'm like, man, I don't even have half a year working experience, and I can't even say the half a year working experience is a legit experience, because for some reason I couldn't tell the governments that is my experience, right? So but anyways, so I literally don't have any experience, and I was like, man, so how did it go, right? So eventually it turned out to be I got denied by the government, and I have a letter saying that because you don't have enough working experience, we're gonna deny your application. So I'm like, it makes sense. But at that time, right, you kind of talk to God and say like, hey, if you want me to go back to Hong Kong, it's fine, but I spent a lot of time preparing these documents, and the document is so thick as well. I spent like almost like a month or two just preparing all the documents, right? It's a lot of work, it's a lot of money paid to it. The company was helping me with that as well. So I just kind of talk to God and say like, hey, if you want me to stay here, I'll be very happy if I can stay here. If not, I'm just gonna go back to Hong Kong, right? So eventually the boss kind of helped me to write a letter. I believe like that was a very big reason, and the bigger reason is like really like just like God helped me with this whole thing. It's just I was really grateful. So eventually the company helped me to write a letter to the government and say like, this position doesn't really require experience, but the potential of that candidate is what that really matters, right? And we can see huge potential into this candidate, and eventually got through. I got another letter from the government and say like, it's okay, we'll give you the visa. And I was like, what? Really? I can't even believe it. because like the minimum is 2 years and I don't even have half a year working experience. I still got passed, and I was like, man, this is magical. This is really miracle. I mean, I'm like, what is going on? So fast back, I'm not going to talk too details, and that is going to be the next video. But what happened to me is 2 or 3 months later, I got fired by that company. So what is going on, right? But yeah, I'm gonna talk about that in the next video. So this is all for this video. I hope you guys like it so far, and if you really like what's going on here, and if you want to listen to the next video as well, definitely subscribe to this channel and follow me again on Dribbble. Follow me on all the social media links down below. And then yeah, I'm gonna talk about like what happened next. But anyways, until the next time, guys, I'll talk to you next week. Bye.